Welcome once again to another episode of Better Catholics. Last episode, we talked about synodality, a very timely topic, and it talks about walking together. It talks about uh, not leaving anybody behind. It means that we have to work as a whole, we have to work as an entire body working together. Today, we are going to have a special guest. We have CHCC CEO, Dr. Esther Munia. This is our attempt to emphasize to the people that there is such thing as collaboration between the church and state as well.
CEO Dr. Munya doesn't need an introduction, but for the sake of our viewers out there beyond CNMI, you have been really a very key figure in our efforts in working together in addressing this pandemic.
Yes, I am a Catholic and I am a mother. And, I do feel that, with the responsibility that I'm given as the head of the health department, especially when health affects everyone, every single person. So it really is important for me to think about and use the motherhood of, being concerned about the people that I'm responsible for. So there's I believe that I'm not saying that anyone, a man cannot do the job. I just feel like that's an asset for myself and I want to be able to utilize it as much as I can. And by the way, I prefer to be called just Esther.
All right. Okay. And thank you for your time in doing this. Father Melvin and I in the diocese really appreciate. You're very busy. And I think I have told you, like, you're busier than priests. So thank you for your time. And the image of a mother you shared with us is, I think for me, is a very important figure. And in fact, there's a lot of scriptural passages that lead to that figure of being a mother. And much so, just recently, we celebrated December 8th, when we talk about Mother Mary, her role in the plan of salvation. And that just important aspect of nurturing, caring, and it's also something important in our culture that a mother actually is a decision maker in a family, from nutrition, from important aspects of family life. And again, not as a father is not involved, but we really put emphasis and recognize the important role of mothers. And with that, when we talk about collaboration, Father Melvin, I'm always reminded of the image that Saint Paul, mentions in one of his writings, that we are one body of Christ, right? The feet cannot say, "Oh, I don't belong," because or the eye would say, "Okay, I'm more important," or the body would say, "Okay, I think I'm more important than the feet." And all of this, the different parts of the body are one. So the way I look at the different institutions in our community, Esther, now that you say, I'm so used to calling you CEO, Esther, that we don't exist on our own. And that's why our mentality, our really mode of operation since the start of the pandemic was always to follow whatever directives that you have put forward with the COVID-19 task force as the head of our health department, because it's important for us to work together. We're
Correct.
members of that one body of Christ. We cannot say, "Oh, just because the church is separate from the state." No, and other places do that. They would even like fight or whatever the state says about COVID protocols. We are the church, we're separate. But my take has always been, no, we're such a close-knit community and it's important for us to be working together. And I've been blessed and I'm so grateful for the task force, for you, Esther, and many people out there. I mean, we've witnesses on how people really in our community have been working hard to ensure safety.
Yes.
And that we want a community that is healthy and not only spiritually healthy but physically healthy.
On our part too, as a church, we would like to do our best to really cooperate with what CHCC, for example, is doing. We try to collaborate and participate. For example, with the vaccination,
Mhm.
the churches opened its doors to receive people who are coming for vaccination. So it's a collaboration, an really obvious uh, uh, collaboration between the church and the state.
Yes.
And many other areas wherein we collaborated as together to work together. The consortium is one of them as well,
Yeah.
and I'm sure many other things. So, Esther, you have so much things to do, and
Yes.
we can only offer ourselves, and help you with the best uh, way we can.
And I
it-
appreciate that. Because I think it's important that we find ways to reach to individuals.
Mhm,
Public health is really about a community.
mhm,
And it does require that, we try to reach as many people as we can, especially the messages
mhm,
about safety, about health,
mhm,
and so when people may not even want to speak
mhm,
to a government person, employee, they rather speak to someone who is really within the community, like the church.
mhm.
And so there is a lot of need to collaborate because we cannot do it alone. I believe that it is important to incorporate
Right,
other means of communication and reaching out to individuals so that they can get the messages.
right.
Anyone with playing sports, for example, that could
Mhm.
be another partnership. So there's so many ways to do it, and whenever we talk about the need to reach individuals, we
Mhm.
always think, well, what about the church?
Yes.
How do we put them into play as
Mhm.
part of our mission to try to achieve what we're
Mhm.
trying to achieve? Yeah.
Yes. And you mentioned, Father Melvin, about vaccination. It was almost a year ago, and I was so excited when I got the message from Esther, like, come, we will have our start of the vaccination. And I was one. I think I even got it
Yeah.
ahead of you.
Right, yeah.
And I was excited, first of all, for safety, for protection, but also as a testimony that I'm willing to do it and I can share this with the faith community.
Yes.
That there's nothing wrong with the vaccine,
Right.
and that it's important for us to get vaccinated. And later on, as this developed, even our Holy Father, Pope Francis himself, emphasized that this is an act of love.
Yes.
By being vaccinated, you don't just think about yourself, but the people you surround with, people,
Right.
your family members, the community. So this is an act of love by doing this. It's not a selfish act that I just want to feel safe.
Right.
And so thank you really for that. And we continue. And where are we now with the vaccination? I heard that we're in the 90.
91%
Wow,
of the
wow.
fully eligible. There may be some adjustment because of the new census data, of course, but it is high. And, we are fortunate, despite the fact that we do have a surge here in the CNMI, the fact that there are, a high number of vaccination numbers is really key to trying to be COVID safe, as we always say it. It's not necessarily COVID free anymore,
Mhm.
but we can be COVID safe.
Yes.
And that's because of the vaccination, the availability of the treatment. Those things were not in existence before. And here we are with a surge, a first time CNMI is going to get this surge. And we have been, I don't want to use the word, but armed.
Yes.
We are armed with a lot of, tools to be able to continue to be safe.
Yes.
So there's definitely a blessing.
Yes. And I recalled before we celebrated our big feast of the Immaculate Conception, I always bother Esther. So I called her and I said, because people have been asking, our COVID-19 cases are rising. So do we continue or do we cancel with the Luca, the procession?
Mhm.
And your input, Esther, was really helpful because it's important to also assure people that, doing procession,
Mhm.
doing it outdoors is
Yes.
in fact safer than having mass inside the cathedral where,
Right.
the AC units are on.
Right.
So, the outcome, I was really happy.
Thanks
First
a
of all, it was a
lot.
beautiful day.
Mhm.
And I think Rumel did a great job of also making sure that he took pictures where there was social distancing.
It was really nice to see. I did.
You saw that? You saw that.
Yes.
And then in the procession, because Mount Carmel School for 2 years now, we advised them not to participate because of the situation. So there were actually more people than, before. And I think it's also the longing for our people to connect with our faith.
I agree.
And for us, we can't just say, we cancel it or we move forward. It's important for us to be guided with experts, with officials like you, Esther. So that's one of the many other consultations, collaborations that we did. The other one is about death. And this is like, in fact, just last week, I got a phone call and asked, like, I recall the first or second death we had that's COVID related.
Right.
Perhaps you can shed light on us on what are the changes if somebody dies, a person, and then there's still that, I think, even among us clergy, what's the protocol? Should we just bury the person right away, or can we do the massive Christian burial? And, our practice also of touching and hugging and even kissing the matay and all of that. Perhaps you can...
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is guidelines already from WHO. Early on when we first had our first death, we didn't know a lot. A lot of information was, still trying to look at research and looking at cases that have already occurred. And so, it was kind of a concerning. And of course, going back to the law, immediate burial. But now, there's a lot more information, and there is basically guidelines that says that, COVID doesn't go with basically stay. Once a person passes on, the COVID is gone as well. So there's, that is that information that's has been provided. And you have seen actually, even before our third death and our fourth death here and our fifth death here, we were, and actually six, we were not, you have deaths that have been coming in from the mainland, right?
Yes.
And they have been basically the same thing. They were brought in, and just, it's as normal as any burial, basically. There is nothing that says that it stays with the body.
So once the body dies or the person dies, the virus dies with it.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Because it is coming from respiratory droplets. It's basically from, when they breathe and the fact that,
So this will give a sense of relief.
I think so.
A lot of
I think
people.
so. Yeah. And as I said, as last week, I received a clarification on that one, and I says, I'll get back to you. I would never say no, I don't know, but I'll. So this is really important, and then. Again, death is such an important cultural practice for us, right? And the way we take care, we honor, we give our full respect, and so it's good that we get guidelines also on how we should go about it.
And funeral directors actually have the same similar guidelines as well. So it's you can get it from the funeral director, and you can get it from CDC even. And WHO, the World Health Organization. Yeah.
I also received another question about the checking of temperature, because I think since day one, we've been doing temperature check.
Right.
And do you do it, Father Melvin, or maybe you don't do it at St. Jude?
The automated one, just put your arm.
Okay.
You may be vaccinated, right? And you may have symptoms.
Yes.
Even in the workplace, if you are fully vaccinated, but you are having symptoms and maybe you have contact with others, one of the first things that they experience is really a fever, even if it's a mild fever. So it does help to still continue to do that.
Okay.
Because you are going to, basically even to tell that individual to probably go get tested as well. So, it's not so much to deny that individual, but especially to mask up, but, really not to be able to get tested. And right now we've rolled out testing we have it that department and, the DFEMS, firemen. We have 3 locations, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays. And then we also have, of course, the community-based testing.
Mhm.
And of course, we don't encourage people to go to the ER if they're just going to get tested, if they're not feeling, any symptoms.
Mhm.
But that is another place. But again, it's for those individuals that are, especially high fever.
Yes.
That it really is more an urgent or an emergent case, then they should go there. But if not, the best place to do is to go get from the community-based testing.
Yes. Yeah. Good.
With regards to the sense of normalcy, is this, can you say that this is the new normal that we are living in now? I know it's a tough question, but
Well, again, it's about being COVID safe,
Yes.
right? I think COVID is not going to go away
Mhm.
for a while. I mean, there's a lot of, in fact, there is a new surge or new wave that's happening in, for example, as far as Maine.
Mhm.
And so, the cases are rising, hospitalizations are rising. There's a new variant.
Mhm.
So really it's about, we have the tools, public health tools.
Right.
Basically, we have vaccinations now, which we didn't have a year ago.
Mhm.
So you have the, masking, getting fully vaccinated. And if the all efforts that has been given to you and you don't want to receive vaccination, and that's what we kept saying, is that we respect your decision not to get vaccinated, but also respect others that do
True.
get the vaccination. But if you don't, we have the treatment already for you. So, and it's actually, the treatment is even given to even fully vaccinated, because sometimes it is, the vaccines are waning in some ways. It's to the point where boosters are being really encouraged right now, especially with the new variant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other area also is our CCD, the Doctrina, because basically we also follow what the schools have been doing. So there have been a lot of changes, adjustments. So I believe for many of our parishes, instruction between now and the end of the year has been done online, or like they do other ways of continuing the instruction. And we're hoping that by early next year we can go back to face-to-face learning. So that kind of also, because this things evolve, and
Mhm.
we need to like constantly evaluate and assess, and what would be the safest way for us to also do our mission, our work in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the schools they have done a lot of putting it in writing on what steps next, they need to take. So that's, it's there. They have the playbook. They can definitely make it safe still too. Yeah.
With the with regards to the element of fear on the part of the general population, I don't think it's gonna go away
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
But how do you think we can approach this to at least um, lessen the amount of fear that people have? Because every time that they hear a case, or a surge, people would always say, I don't know, I'm not gonna go to church, or
Yeah.
I better stay home. And so the sense of normalcy is hindered by that element of fear. How can we assure the general population that we don't have to be afraid really that much? We have the vaccine. Of course, I'm not a
It's
doctor,
hard.
I'm
It's
not a
hard.
scientist, but I can see that in a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah, so for us in at least in public health perspective, is that you need to be consistent.
Mhm.
I mean, we need to be transparent. So we are trying to put the messaging out there. We've never really changed our
Yes.
messaging of 3 Ws, vaccination, protect, having air ventilation, especially if you're in a crowded area. So there's a lot of ways to protect yourself.
Right.
It's hard, but that's one of the reasons why we don't want to go back. Like you don't want to say, oh, we're going to shut down, because if you do, you're basically going against your own message,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So you want to stick to the message, and you need to stick to what CDC tells us as well, which
Mhm.
is really a lot of guidelines, and it's all consistent.
Mhm.
It's you need to be in that
Mhm.
position to be able to continuously, give um, credibility to your message.
Yes.
And if you're telling one thing and then the other and acting in a different way,
Mhm.
I don't know about that credibility, right?
Yes.
So it's really important, and this is why I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, we can sense your passion every time we would watch you, talking live. It's like Esther is
Sorry.
really very passionate, which is good. I mean, you really can deliver the message very clearly and passionately. Is very effective
Thank you.
for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
You also mentioned, Esther, about how our people in the healthcare profession, or nurses or doctors, volunteers, the importance of mental health.
Mhm.
And that's why, our community should also, each one should do his or her part,
Mhm.
because they're overwhelmed with work. And
Oh,
I
yes.
think it's a moral obligation on our part to make sure that we don't add to the stress level that they're already, our healthcare
Mhm.
providers are giving, and are doing. And, it's, I can imagine, and, perhaps, for us also in the church, um, we can also do our part, not along those lines, by perhaps the kind of spiritual guidance and sustenance that we can give. Because I think, mental health, spiritual health, um, we are, as a person, our whole, our entire self. We're not
Mhm.
like, separate. This is you can't dichotomize, the spiritual, Father Melvin, and the personal and the
Course.
physical and all of that. So I believe that's key. And you pointed it out in one of the interviews that you had, like, the importance for our healthcare professionals
Yes.
to really take some time off and be with their families. And they have families too.
It's been exhausting. It's been
Yeah.
exhausting for so many. I have staff that haven't really in some ways seen their families.
Mm.
It's hard. It's hard to watch.
Mm.
But for us, or at least my role is to provide them the tools, provide them the support, hear them out, and really see, and of course pray as well,
Yes. Yeah.
to try to provide them that support because they really need it. I mean, we can't do this without them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are happening right now. We've been always talking about, at the end of the day, although we appreciate the support that's coming in from the federal government, but
Mhm.
especially with a surge or a wave that's happening in the U.S., this is the first time in all the time since COVID. This is the first time we actually got the support because, I mean, I'm not the physical support being actually here on island. They've been supporting us, in different
Yes.
ways,
Yes.
but the physical support was just recent because
Mhm.
this is the first time for the CNMI.
I heard Dr. Brostrom is here.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he used to work for
Yes.
CHCC for many years.
Yes.
And he used to go to Cristoray when he was a younger priest. And we used to compete tennis. So when I read his
Mhm.
name, it's like, okay, he's here to work. He's not here for
Yes.
R&R. But it's good to have those help really from.
Yes. I mean, it's helpful. And we just want to be able to try it as much as possible to help the team that's here. Again, I've always said this, that at the end of the day, it's going to be CHCC staff that's probably going to be be starting it and also ending it, right? So
Yes.
we need to be able to make sure that we provide them that support.
Yeah. And Esther, we can never thank you enough for all the many work that you and your team have been doing.
Mhm.
And so, please let us know how we can further improve our collaboration. We're here also to help in whatever capacity you think, we can be of help.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I message you even, all the time. Even if it's just to vent.
Mhm. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah, that's my mental health. Yeah, Bishop is my mental health.
Yeah, I feel blessed that we have this open communication,
Yes.
and this is what I mean by living in a community where each person is really important, and if we have this willingness to listen to each other,
Right.
Yeah.
and we all have the same goals.
Yes.
We have
Yes.
different roles, but we want a safety CNMI, a healthy CNMI.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
this is a good start, to build really a good relationship between the different sectors of our community.
Mhm.
And like the Bishop Ryan said, if there's anything that we can help you with as a church,
Mhm.
as priests, as lay people, if we can help you with anything, just let us know. Call the bishop, and we will
Yes.
do our best to formulate something to collaborate with you, dialogue and collaborate with you. I mean, this is how hopefully we will be able to reach a new sense of normal.
Right.
So thank you very much, Esther,
thank
for
you. Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank
And
you.
on behalf of the rest of the clergy, I'd say thank you and extend, please, our gratitude to all the frontliners that we have out there. Thank you very much for everything that you do. You are making us truly better Catholics.